Hi, if you want to watch exclusive content with hot girls that you won't watch on YouTube, namely where Naruto roasts Kushina and Mikoto and many other hot girls without restrictions, then visit my Boosty channel at the link in the description. A skinny guy is lying in a disgusting white room. His eyes are sunken, but they burn with an unhealthy black fire. Such a look pierces right through, it sends shivers down the back of your neck. The guy knew this, so if you displease him, his look will nail you to the wall. And if he smiles, you will have the feeling that the devil himself has honored you with his presence. The guy ruffled his black hair and looked up from the sheet of paper in front of him to wet his brush in a jar of water. Then he looked at the almost finished painting to evaluate it. The sheet depicted a dark-skinned guy, about the same age as the guy himself, that is, 18 or 19 years old. He had blue eyes, shaggy blonde hair and a pleasant smile. And also strange stripes on his cheeks. The brunette looked around, searching for something on the wall until he found the right picture. He got up and took it off the wall, examining it carefully. The painting was dated 6 months earlier. It depicted the same guy, only there were no stripes. He had started painting these stripes recently. Uchiha Sasuke. Paranoid schizophrenic. Afraid of everything and everyone, alone in a ward after he wanted to bite his neighbor because he looked at him askance and said something wrong. As Sasuke explained later, he considered it a threat to his life. No family. Everyone was killed, the older brother disappeared without a trace. It seems that after this Sasuke went crazy. When was that? The story of his illness began 2 years earlier. The photograph shows a 16-year-old teenager, and below is a verdict, schizophrenia. When it would pass, no one knew, and would it pass at all? Sasuke discovered his artistic talent about 6 months ago. He started dreaming about a strange guy who was saying something, or at least moving his lips, but Sasuke couldn't hear. At first he was afraid, but now he even waits for night to come. He must have fallen in love with this man. Before, Sasuke didn't know what to do with the images that had crammed into his head, but then an inner voice helpfully told him to sketch. Well, he sketches. Only now he gets a face, no matter what he draws. He wants to draw a car, he does it. He draws a nurse, he does it again. And Uchiha resigned himself, methodically pasting these pictures on the walls of the ward. The doctors were amazed before. The obstinate brunette could not be found doing any task, he was so restless, and now he draws all day long. And the pictures come out like photographs. One nurse asked him for a painting. Sasuke grabbed it like a jealous husband and grumbled for probably an hour, and then took pity and gave her the painting she liked. The girl was happy, because the guy depicted in the painting was really handsome. Sasuke was drawing. The doctors got tired of giving him sheets of paper and brought a stack of 1,000 sheets of paper into the ward. He also had a huge box of paints, although there was no easel, but Sasuke liked to draw lying on the cool floor. Sasuke was drawing. He did it tirelessly, like a madman. Although he was not normal. Doctors often came here, to his ward, as to a gallery, and smiled, looking at the open smile of the blonde. Sasuke was asked who he draws. Sasuke didn't know. Sasuke didn't know his name, age, nationality, didn't know where he lived, but he felt strongly that this man was alive. He told the doctors about it, but they didn't really believe him. Sasuke didn't care. Sasuke was carried away. Uchiha had developed a habit of leafing through his medical history. He explained it by saying that he wanted it that way. He called him Shiroi to himself. He couldn't say for sure why, maybe because he appeared to him on a white background? Sasuke didn't know. Sasuke didn't know many things, for example, how to hold a brush, how to make sketches, but he did it professionally, although the brunette had never touched a brush before. Sasuke could. Sasuke knew how to surprise. Sasuke became calm, as if the pictures were being treated. The doctors laughed incredulously and said there will soon be a breakdown. That's right. But there was no breakdown. And the doctors shook their heads in disappointment and went to their offices. Becoming distant from the open-hearted patient. Sasuke wanted to live. Underscore. Shiroi, Japanese, white. Naruto. Naruto had never liked mental hospitals. There was always a gloomy atmosphere there, which was more oppressive than his own illness. Uzumaki impatiently adjusted the mask the doctors had given him. Actually, why did he need a mask? The blonde didn't want to ruin his reputation. Naruto was a musician known in narrow circles, P/A. Precisely in narrow circles, that's why no one recognized him when Sasuke was drawing. After one unpleasant incident with a girl, the guy felt that his nerves were at the limit. At the next concert, he, as they say, freaked out. And so much so that they couldn't calm him down for a long time and eventually called a doctor. The diagnosis was disappointing. Severe depression. The doctors thought for a long time, but still decided to keep the guy under observation in the hospital. And now, having pulled a mask over his face that seemed to be made in the shape of a fox's face, he walks somewhere with an unsteady step, accompanied by doctors in white coats. "Mr. Uzumaki," one of the doctors whispers quietly. "We have assigned you to the same room with Sasuke. We will find a more convenient location for you as soon as possible. He is schizophrenic, but there is no need to be afraid, he has been calm lately. By the way, we are now at his room." Naruto nodded silently, frozen at the door. The doctors looked at each other and left, and for some reason the blonde couldn't bring himself to open the door. Finally, he took a deep breath and decisively pushed the door, entering. A handsome brunette immediately stared at him, but Naruto didn't even notice him. He simply looked around the walls in bewilderment, where his own face was looking at him. A rough voice pulled him out of his thoughts. "Who are you? What do you want here? Why are you hiding your face?" "I'm Naruto. I'll be here for temporary treatment. I'm hiding my face for the sake of secrecy. Now I'm asking questions. To be precise, I have one question. Who are you drawing?" "I don't know." The brunette shrugged. "What do you mean you don't know?" Uzumaki raised an eyebrow. Of course, he didn't expect to be known in a mental hospital, but still, how can you draw a complete stranger so accurately? "Well," Sasuke hesitated. "I just dream about him. I don't know who he is. I called him Shiroi. He's just so bright. With his arrival, I began to hope that I would stop getting sick. Maybe this is what people call love." Uchiha smiled dreamily. Although this smile transformed his pale face, it was still frightening. After all, Sasuke was not yet completely adequate. Naruto smiled nervously back and smoothed down his shoulder-length hair. For the first time, he was glad that he had forgotten about the hairdresser for so long. For some reason, he really didn't want this strange guy to know who he really was. Naruto sat down on the bed next to Sasuke's and looked thoughtfully at the ceiling. There was nothing interesting there, of course, and Uzumaki looked at the Uchiha before asking, "How come you didn't die here?" "What do you mean?" Sasuke smiled quite sincerely. "It's just so depressing here," the blonde complained. "And I draw," Sasuke said, perplexed. "And I don't feel sad at all. I wish I could do that." Naruto sighed enviously. The boys quickly became friends, despite the obvious differences in their personalities. Naruto still did not take off his mask, and Sasuke was not particularly interested in his face. Naruto often watched Sasuke draw. He managed to find out that the Uchiha never learned to draw, but he drew no worse than professional artists. This seemed strange to Naruto, but he explained it all simply: schizophrenia simply gave him new opportunities. It was still a little strange to see yourself being drawn by someone who had never seen you before. Naruto was worried and even a little scared. Meanwhile, Sasuke began to notice that with the appearance of his roommate, his desire to draw Shiroi had disappeared. Instead, he had a desire to look at Naruto's face. Shiroi http://cs3043122.useраpi.com/u13918/dash14/x_880912115.jpg article. Sasuke didn't know how to approach the problem with his roommate's face. The clinic had strict measures for patients diagnosed like Sasuke. They tied him up with ropes. Although, It was more likely because Uchiha was violent at first. Naruto fenced off his bed with a screen, and only then took off his mask. Uchiha could only watch all this from his bed. His dreams were becoming more and more intense. Naturally, there was the mysterious Shiroi, but for some reason he seemed to recede into the background. The main character was now Naruto. He took off his mask, and behind it was emptiness. Then an evil laugh was heard, and the brunette, breathing heavily, woke up. He wiped the disgusting sticky sweat from his forehead and looked at the screen. His neighbor slept until 10, less often until 9, and the unfortunate Uchiha was allowed to get up only when his neighbor woke up. Sasuke did not like this. This time he had another strange dream. As usual, he was tied to the bed and looking at the ceiling. Suddenly, closer to his feet, the guy felt a weight, and with some difficulty the rope was in the way of his neck. He looked at the one who sat down. He was sitting with his back to him. Then he moved closer and turned around. For some reason his face was blurry, but his bright blue eyes stood out. His hoarse breathing echoed strangely in the brunette's ears. "Sasuke, you are so handsome," the stranger whispered. "Shiroi? Is that you?" asked the brunette. He felt a warm breath exhaled on his lips, realized that someone else's lips were millimeters from his own. He jerked, but the bonds were too secure. "Yes, it's me. You're Shiroi. Don't resist, okay, baby? I'll take the ropes off your neck." Sasuke nodded slightly and felt his breathing become easier. The pressure on his neck was gone. He jerked his hands, but Shiroi laughed right in his ear, his breath burning. "But I won't let go of your hand." The brunette shifted nervously, but didn't answer. What was Shiroi, the one he had dreamed of for so long, going to do to him? The answer, which was clearly unambiguous, immediately came to mind, and a sickly blush appeared on his pale cheeks. Meanwhile, Shiroi leaned over Sasuke. His face was again unsteady, strange. When he spoke, his voice sounded somehow capricious and offended. "How could you forget me, Sasuke?" What do you mean?" he asked in surprise. "You keep picking on this Uzumaki. Why do you need his face? We even see each other less often in our dreams now. What is it about this guy that got you so hooked? He's real. And you're from a dream. Do you understand the difference?" "No!" Shiroi shouted. "There is no difference. And now I will prove it to you." He kissed Sasuke sharply, greedily, imperiously, not allowing him to seize the initiative. Uchiha hesitated. Usually he acted as an activist, but here how to seize the matter into his, by the way, tied hands? Pulling away from his lips, the blonde whispered, "Kisses must be reciprocated." For this Sasuke got a bite on the lip. A trickle of blood flowed from his chin onto his bare chest. Uchiha winced. Shiroi had bitten painfully, and very painfully. Ignoring the angry hiss, the boy ran his tongue along the pale neck, then lightly bit the skin, again causing Sasuke to wince and flinch, but he again ignored the Uchiha. He seemed to even enjoy mocking the boy like this, who, due to his attachment to the bed, could not resist. The blonde guy's hands were gently stroking the brunette's lower back. The latter was busy trying not to let the moans escape his lips. The caresses of the guy of his dreams brought pleasure incomparable to that which he had received with the few girls from his past life. At the moment when someone else's hand touched the most piquant place, Uchiha woke up with a loud groan. He lowered his gaze as far as his bandaged neck would allow and saw something between his legs. It was lifting the blanket in a very curious place. The Uchiha looked up at the ceiling. The morning promised to be fun. Little things Good morning, Sasuke, came the cheerful voice of his roommate. The Uchiha shuddered and shifted. The tension in his lower abdomen just wouldn't go away. And then there was Naruto's voice, with that erotic morning hoarseness. What if he noticed how cheerful Sasuke was this morning? Meanwhile, Naruto approached Uchiha. He was still wearing a mask, but for some reason Sasuke thought the guy was smiling. "Move away!" the brunette blurted out, blushing. Naruto looked at him in surprise, but obediently took a couple of steps back. "Sorry, I'm not completely awake yet. I think you shouldn't approach me yet, let's wait for the orderlies." "Okay," Naruto said confusedly and sat down on his bed. How did you sleep? He asked cautiously. Sasuke rolled his eyes. Naturally, he wouldn't tell about his schizophrenic dreams involving a certain Shiroi Uchiha. Uzumaki would hardly be able to understand it. Great. Sasuke finally answered. And how are you? It seemed that the tension had begun to ease during the casual conversation, which was good news. Yeah, that's not bad either, the blonde said thoughtfully. Uzumaki was actually a bit shady. All night long he was tormented by a series of strange dreams, where Sasuke was far from an innocent lamb, tormenting the unfortunate Naruto by squeezing his privates. The blonde wouldn't be surprised if he moaned in his sleep. Fortunately, Naruto wasn't tied to the bed, unlike Sasuke. Naruto didn't quite understand why they tied the Uchiha to the bed, because he was completely calm. Coming out of the shower this morning, the guy asked the cute nurse about it, to which she, for some reason desperately blushing, replied that schizophrenics can have breakdowns after a long period of calm. Now Naruto was in a constant state of tension, waiting for Sasuke to snap. And today he sharply ordered him to move away, although he clearly would not have been against it if Naruto had untied him, because it must be unpleasant when you are tied to a bed and cannot move from the spot. Sasuke breathed a sigh of relief. The excitement had disappeared as soon as he thought about what they would serve for breakfast. By that time, a pretty nurse had come into the room. It seemed she had recently been hired here. She leaned over, blushing, and Sasuke's gaze involuntarily rested on her rather large breasts. Yeah, not bad. How are you feeling, Sasuke-san? Not bad at all, Uchiha smiled, stretching his numb wrists. And what are you, the new nurse? He glanced at her badge. Hinata-san. I'm doing my internship here, the girl said quietly, putting the ropes aside. I decided to choose psychology as my main profile. I was sent here. I see. Sasuke stood up and stretched with a satisfied groan. You draw beautifully. She timidly pointed to the drawings on the wall. Thank you, Sasuke smiled again. Do you want me to draw you? And without waiting for an answer, sit by the window, the lighting is better there. Naruto frowned at the Uchiha's fuss. For some reason, it irritated him how Sasuke was running around with this girl, getting paints, a piece of paper, a pencil from under the bed. Although when he asked her about Uchiha, she seemed pretty to him. Hinata sat down carefully on the windowsill, and Uchiha immediately began to sketch her face. Half an hour later the work was finished. Sasuke examined the drawing meticulously and handed it to the girl with the words, "Well, how is it? Do you like it?" Hinata blushed once again and nodded, muttering, "It's true, I look more beautiful here than I actually am." "Don't be shy, you haven't embellished it at all. Keep the painting for yourself." The girl lowered her eyes modestly as she left the room. Naruto chuckled irritably. He definitely didn't like this girl. Realizing one thing, Uzumaki suddenly slapped his forehead. "Uzumaki," he said to himself mentally. "Are you jealous? You, a straight guy, are jealous of a guy for a girl? It seems like it should be the other way around." Of course it seems that way to him. Everything shouldn't be the other way around. Equals 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 feelings equals 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 equals. Naruto angrily paced the corridor. The guy couldn't be in the ward. There he was, followed by the puzzled gaze of his neighbor, who couldn't understand why Uzumaki was freaking out. No, he couldn't possibly like Sasuke. First of all, Sasuke is a guy, and secondly, Sasuke is a guy. This is all wrong, and being jealous is just stupid. And anyway, Sasuke has problems with his head. They won't let him out of the mental hospital, but Naruto is here on vacation, a resort. What? And soon, of course, he will leave here to hell. Naruto suddenly felt like smoking. Not that he had ever done it before. He was a singer, after all, and he didn't want to get throat or lung cancer, but now he felt the need, and he went to the orderlies to bum some cigarettes from them. Having done his dirty work, the blonde was already standing with one of the orderlies, Shikamaru, in the unofficial smoking room in the toilet. Shikamaru, it seemed, didn't care about anything. He was smoking melancholically, looking at the peeling wall. Then he turned his gaze to the blonde, who was nervously dragging on "That shit that those morons smoke," and asked, lazily stretching out his words, "Why are you so sour?" "Yes, problems," Naruto muttered. "Personal ones." "You tell me," It can be useful to talk it out, Shikamaru advised. I won't tell anyone, and there's no one to tell, in principle. They don't care about the problems of the sick here, he shrugged. Okay, outwardly reluctantly, but happy in his soul, he really wanted to talk. I live in the same ward with a certain patient here. He is quite nice and pleasant in appearance, and not bad in communication, but when I first entered the ward I saw my face there. He, not knowing me, drew my portraits. And he is not an artist. Naruto nervously ruffled his hair, once again took a drag and exhaled the smoke. It's problematic, Shikamaru said after a pause. I'll tell you this. You'll be leaving here soon, and he'll probably be here for a long time. If I understood correctly who you're talking about, there's no one to take him. However, if you want, you can formalize guardianship over him and take him for yourself. If you don't need that, Shikamaru looked sternly at Naruto, it's better to transfer to another ward. Don't tie him to yourself, he'll have a hard time dealing with your departure, and after all, things have only just started to improve for him, although no one expected it. You'd better decide on this quickly. Sasuke is really complicated. The brunette put out his cigarette, threw away the butt and handed Naruto a pack of cigarettes. Here. Just don't show it off in front of the doctors, or we'll both get into trouble. Shikamaru left, and Naruto, having put out his cigarette, looked out the window for a long time. The orderly's words were correct, but who else would have told him what to do? Sasuke sat on the bed, looking at the wall covered with paintings. Naruto ran away somehow abruptly. The guy didn't even understand what caused it. Maybe he offended him somehow. As soon as he remembered about Uzumaki, the door of the room swung open and the blonde walked in. His face was still hidden by the mask, but he was clearly focused on something. Naruto? Uchiha called uncertainly. He didn't answer, taking the suitcase he had once brought with him from under the bed and putting his things in it. Sasuke looked at all this in bewilderment, trying to understand what Uzumaki was going to do. Sasuke, I'm moving to another room, Naruto said quickly, closing his suitcase with a soft click and heading for the exit. I'm sorry this happened, it's not your fault, it's all my fault. It dawned on Sasuke, Naruto was leaving. All the light seemed to leave the Uchiha in an instant. He felt the darkness suffocating him, so the guy jumped up and grabbed his neighbor by the hand. Don't go, he blurted out. I'm scared alone. Naruto was silent, waiting for Sasuke to let him go. Finally, he resignedly unclenched his fingers, squeezing his wrist with unusual tenacity and despair, and smiled weakly, and his gaze became empty and instantly indifferent. Already leaving, the blonde felt how he was pulled by the elastic of the mask. And before a surprised cry escaped his lips, it fell to the floor with a deafening sound. Mask The mask fell to the floor with a deafening sound. Naruto screamed in surprise before he realized what had happened. Sasuke froze, amazed at his own courage. He didn't know what had driven him to do this, but the point was in the result of what had happened. Naruto's face. Uchiha grabbed his roommate's shoulders and abruptly turned him around to face him. The look of his black eyes, shining with excitement, collided with the surprised and confused look of his blue eyes. Having seen the blonde's face, Sasuke recoiled. His gaze convulsively caught the pictures hanging on the walls. There was no doubt, the same face. Shiroi? The brunette whispered in surprise. It finally dawned on the blonde what had happened. Sasuke had pulled his mask off. Now he could see his face. What did that mean? And what does this mean? Naruto looked at the surprised face of his roommate, noticing surprise, confusion, and even fear. He suddenly became afraid that Sasuke would have an attack. What should he do then? The blonde, still facing Sasuke, slowly backed away towards the door. However, Sasuke immediately understood what the blonde was thinking, so he blurted out. Don't call the doctors. I'm fine. I'm just surprised. Naruto obediently froze. He himself did not know why he was listening to the brunette, but his voice sounded so metallic that he was simply afraid to disobey. They say that psychos, if they want, can become 100 times stronger than they really are. What if Sasuke breaks something? The guy looked at him. No, he was definitely drawing his face. It was him who dreamed of him, hugged him in his sleep, and not only hugged him. But why? Why him? It was you who dreamed of me, the brunette whispered, approaching. Don't be afraid, I won't hurt you. But why didn't you tell me right away that I was drawing your face? You saw, thin pale fingers touched her cheek, running along the stripes. And I wondered who it was. No one thought that you existed in reality. Everyone was silent. Naruto was silent. He was scared. Sasuke's gaze became somehow scary, as if he was in oblivion, as if. It's like he's gone crazy. The blonde was afraid to say even a word. You never know how Uchiha would react. That's why he was afraid to take an extra breath, allowing someone else's hand to touch him, although he hated it when his personal space was violated. Inhale. Exhalation. Inhale. Exhalation. Naruto, Sasuke whispers again, and his lips are a millimeter from Uzumaki's lips. He feels his heart break into an uncontrollable dance, feels thin hands fall on his waist and pull him to a fragile, thin body. Against his will, as if they live a separate life, his hands are woven into dark hair, touching the disheveled strands on the back of his head, and his lips stretch into a smile. Why does he want to kiss this psychopath so much? The one who drew him, waited and hoped that he was real. Maybe to prove to himself that he was real. That this wasn't a dream, that he was alive, that they were both alive, standing in the middle of a fucking psychiatric ward. Or maybe it's just maximalism. Just a desire to learn something new, to feel what it's like when you kiss a guy. Either way, the reason doesn't matter. Naruto just pulls the boy closer to him by the back of his head and kisses him. Greedily and possessively. They'll deal with the consequences later. Understanding Naruto pulled away from Sasuke, perhaps a little too abruptly, because the Uchiha looked at him with surprise and confusion. What the hell, Sasuke? Why do you need this? I don't like guys. I've always liked girls and… Sasuke didn't let him finish. These banal excuses irritated him. So the brunette closed the stranger's mouth with a kiss, a great way if you want to shut someone up without offending them. But this time, Uzumaki didn't answer. He stood there like a pillar, just hanging his hands. At that moment, the door behind Naruto swung open. Realizing that it was none other than the head doctor, Uchiha jumped away from Uzumaki. He slowly turned around, and the expression of indifference on his face was replaced by an expression of horror. Sarutobi-san, he muttered. Uzumaki, the man in turn, showed his observation. Let's go to my office. Now I have an important conversation with you. Naruto gave Sasuke a look that Sasuke couldn't understand, then picked up his mask from the floor and followed the doctor. He was clearly going to give the guy a dressing down. But it wouldn't turn into anything serious, most likely. Yes, Sasuke was ashamed, but only a little. He was used to getting what he wanted, not caring about the path of the prey. He got it this time too, though he framed an innocent person, but who cares? Certainly not him. Sarutobi looked at Naruto with a look that did not foretell anything good for him. Although the blonde himself honestly did not understand what he had done. He was an ordinary patient, after all, and that did not mean that he was forbidden to kiss another patient. Naruto-san, I expected you to behave more decently. You didn't seem like the type of person to me who would pester patients. Moreover, you're not here for such a serious reason, you could have behaved more decently. But apparently I was wrong about you. In that case, I'll have to discharge you, especially since you're no longer suffering from neuroses, as I see. Naruto was silent. Of course, he should have wanted to get out of here as soon as possible. But for some reason he didn't want to. I wonder why. Because of Sasuke? Surely. After all, there was nothing keeping him here except Uchiha. The guy tiredly ran his hand over his face. And how to explain to Sarutobi what happened? I don't think anyone forbade me from kissing another patient. He finally put forward his argument. I'm not a doctor or an orderly, I'm a patient just like Sasuke. What's wrong with what we just did? Don't you understand? Sasuke is here for long-term treatment. It's unlikely that he will ever be discharged, the man hissed. And you are here temporarily. And as soon as you leave, Sasuke will be alone again. Don't you think that it is easier to always be alone than to lose someone you have become attached to? Sasuke was just starting to recover, and your departure would probably be a turning point in his illness. He didn't have any attacks in my presence. He was calm. Naruto tried to speak evenly and confidently. That's why I dare say that I have a beneficial effect on him. It would be stupid of you to separate us. Especially since I myself wouldn't mind being with him. And I will separate you. The doctor smiled nastily, so that goosebumps ran down the blonde's neck. Your beneficial influence will dissipate at the first quarrel. Don't argue with me now. All people quarrel, some rarely, but still, it happens. Sasuke is strictly forbidden to be nervous. I don't think you will worry about your departure. Did I understand correctly that you asked for a private room? That means your things are already packed, right? Wait for me at the entrance to the hospital. I will take your things and bring them to you, and then you will leave here. And never come back. If you disobey, believe me, you will have a fun life. I can arrange it. These are not empty threats. Go. Naruto nodded. There was nothing else to do, since Sarutobi clearly wasn't throwing his words to the wind. He slowly trudged towards the exit, his legs feeling like cotton wool. The stairs seemed scary and insurmountable, but soon he was standing and waiting for Sarutobi. He didn't make him wait long. He arrived a couple of minutes after the blonde himself. Here are your things. He handed Uzumaki a suitcase. He took it, looked at the man, but he did not consider it necessary to say anything in parting. Naruto went outside. It was raining and he didn't have an umbrella. He didn't care. All that was left was to find a car. It was difficult, since almost no one drove here. There should be some money in the bag. I wonder if there is a hotel here? I need to call home. So he was back to his old life. Before, he would have been happy. But not now. How shitty he felt. Despair Sasuke was rushing from one corner of the room to the other in confusion. Why was Naruto taking so long to return? Was something bad threatening him? A nurse entered the room and began making Naruto's bed. Sasuke stared at her blankly for a few seconds before saying, "Excuse me. Do you know where Uzumaki Naruto is?" The woman went to the window, opened the vent, letting cool air into the room, and only then turned to the brunette. Indifference was written on her face, which even made the guy shudder. How can people be like that? Uzumaki left the hospital, she said indifferently and left, closing the door behind her. Sasuke stood there for a while, staring blankly at the wall and trying to comprehend the nurse's words. What do you mean, abandoned? Why? He felt anger boiling inside, stopping in a hot lump near his heart, which immediately began to beat faster. He felt some kind of despair. He wanted to scream and beat against the walls so that they would let him out of this cage to Naruto. The first blow is received by the same wall. Pain pierces the hand, the knuckles are bruised until they bleed and leave a red mark on the white paint. Wallpaper is a luxury for such an establishment. The next blow falls on the drawings hanging all over the room. Sasuke grabs one of them, stares with wild eyes at the sky blue drawings, then tears the drawing into small pieces and throws it out the window. The glass doesn't break, even though the punch was harder than he would have thought. A bright red mark is left on the window, even if he had broken the window, he wouldn't have been able to break the bars. However, the Uchiha doesn't think about that now. Suddenly he remembers his family. And he understands that he is left alone. No one knows where his brother is, his parents are long gone. The boy screams, and the scream echoes off the walls, the window, the door, returning to its owner. He throws himself on the floor and curls up into a ball, hugging himself. His face is buried in his knees. Sasuke doesn't notice how tears are running down his cheeks, and his lips are bitten until they bleed. The door opens, the doctor comes in and looks at the patient with surprise and bewilderment. Why does he suddenly, having recovered, return to his previous state so abruptly? Then the man's gaze falls on the empty bed next to the brunette's. He immediately understood everything Naruto left. This was bound to happen, because his treatment did not imply a long detention here. In general, according to the rules, with his mild nervous breakdown, it was not worth coming here in principle. But Sarutobi made an exception. Sasuke looks up, and the doctor flinches. The Uchiha's gaze now resembles that of a cornered animal. Angry, desperate, with a thirst for revenge. The doctor approaches the door, slowly, as if Sasuke were truly an animal. And animals, especially wild ones, do not like sudden movements. Uchiha jumps up to him with a lightning-fast movement. Scissors flash in his hand, sharply running across the man's neck. He feels pain, and the next moment red streaks appear on Sasuke's hands and on his white coat. Where did he get the scissors? The door is suddenly opened and the doctor is thrown out of the room. He presses his fingers to the wound, but it is not fatal. The nurse grabs the first aid kit and immediately runs to help. Sasuke looks at his palm, stained with someone else's blood. His eyes shine madly and predatorily. He runs his tongue over his hand, collecting drops of moisture. A strange, unpleasant taste. He grips the scissors tighter, even though they are also stained with blood, but not too much. Now he doesn't care that he could kill this man, he wanted to kill him. However, at the last moment he thought about Naruto. What would he say if he found out that the Uchiha had killed someone? Sasuke didn't want to live. He looked at the faces he had drawn of Naruto, and realized that the meaning of his life had just gone away. The blade of the scissors touches the pale, thin wrist hesitantly. He is hesitant in his actions, not sure if this is right. However, Naruto is unlikely to return now that he has so clearly disowned him. The first cut was unpleasant, but not deep. However, the blood flowed too quickly, so Sasuke decided that this would be enough. Drops fell on the floor like bizarre stars. He held his trembling hand in the air, sitting on the floor. Black eyes watched with interest the pictures appearing on the floor. The finger of his other hand drew an uneven line of scarlet color. Consciousness was cloudy, but the blood slowed its flow quite quickly. Sasuke looked at his hand, confused. Why wasn't he dying? The blood had dried, forming an unpleasant crust on his hand. The door opens again. Sasuke grabs the scissors and looks wildly at those who entered. They in turn look with fear at the pools of blood around the guy. Then someone rushes to him, pulls the wet and slippery scissors out of his hand, throws them aside, tenaciously takes him by the palm and examines the wound, not allowing him to jerk his hand. Sasuke blinks incredulously. He must be imagining things. Or maybe he's already dead and gone to heaven. Do suicides go to heaven? Sasuke didn't care. He just smiled and whispered absolutely happily, looking at the orderly. Naruto. Loneliness The orderly stepped back, looking at Uchiha in surprise. He looked so happy now, as if all his dreams had just come true. I wonder what psychopaths dream about. Uchiha looked at the orderly with a crazy smile. In front of him stood Uzumaki, who for some reason looked at him with fear and bewilderment. What had Sasuke managed to do to him already? Naruto, what are you afraid of? I won't do anything bad to you. The boy looks back at the doctors in fear. Why is he calling him by a different name? Don't be afraid, the doctor says to the orderly. He's not normal, he just sees you as a different person. Now we'll tie him to the bed and leave. He attacked the doctor. Sasuke is grabbed by the arms. He tries to break free, but they hold him tightly. They accidentally tear the wound on his wrist, and the blood flows with renewed vigor, staining the floor. The wound pulsates with pain. Sasuke quietly cries out in pain, but then clenches his jaws until it hurts. He stops resisting when he is thrown onto a hard bed, when one hand is tied, and the other is held by two people at once, while a third bandages the wound. Sasuke is in pain, because no one even thinks to take care of the discomfort of other people's hands, but he is silent, biting his lips. Now he no longer sees Naruto in this room. He understands that Uzumaki is not here. Where is he then? When they tie his legs, the boy can't take it anymore and screams, looking at the doctor. Blood from his lips gets right on the man's face, and he winces. Where did you put Naruto? The glass shook, my throat was torn with pain, and the walls successfully reflected a loud cry, full of pain and despair. Where is he? Where did you put him? The doctors are silent, tightening the straps that bind the patient's limbs tighter. They are afraid that he will break free, that he might hurt them. The pain caused to the patient does not bother anyone. After all, The lives of doctors are valued higher than the lives of psychos. Where's Naruto? Sasuke repeats, the scream tearing at his throat, but he doesn't pay attention. Where did Naruto go? What if they did something to them? Naruto left. The doctor, whose coat collar was stained with Sasuke's blood, calmly answered. Uchiha didn't remember when he managed to stain it. It didn't matter. What was more important was what he heard. What did he mean, left? Crazy black eyes with barely noticeable dilated pupils scan the people present, and the men feel uneasy. It was as if death had looked into their eyes, not believing that they had a couple more decades to live. Sasuke nervously looks at the doctors, looking for echoes of lies on their faces, but they all have indifference on their faces, only slight fear, caused by the guy's looks, flashes on the faces of some of them. But he says nothing about lies. How did he leave? Sasuke speaks calmly, but his calm is deceptive. His voice becomes ingratiating and seems to hypnotize. There is a feeling that it is not he who is tied up, but the doctors, as if he is interrogating criminals. As if he is confident in himself. Soft intonations deceive. They deceive easily, suggesting that Sasuke is calm. It doesn't last long, but it delays for a while. I repeat, the velvety whisper in the silence sounds louder than a scream. Where did you put Naruto? Where did he go? Why? Sarutobi drove him away. One of the doctors answers, and then, swallowing, looks away from the patient's black eyes, in which madness and cold malice, hatred and contempt for everything burn. Sasuke is powerless, but scary. Kicked him away? Genuine bewilderment and a raised eyebrow. What did he do? We don't know. Someone from the side answers. The orderly, whom Sasuke initially mistook for Naruto, suddenly spoke up. Can we go? Uchiha glances at him, and the young man gets chills. He feels like everything inside is slowly burning with an icy flame. He wants to leave, but Sasuke's gaze seems to rivet him to the spot and he feels real animal fear. However, the brunette suddenly looks away and closes his eyes with a tired sigh. The blood has unpleasantly caked on his pale lips, and if he twitches his lip in the wrong way, the wound starts bleeding again. The doctors leave quietly, trying not to stomp or bang the door, as if Sasuke were a beast that would be set off by any overly loud sound. Naruto left. He left without saying anything. He didn't even explain what happened. Maybe he was forbidden to speak? After all, people like Uzumaki don't lie, they just don't know how. Sasuke exhales and opens his eyes, looking at the ceiling. Is there any point in running after him? It will look so stupid. As if he is a girl whose boyfriend decided to leave her alone, and she can't accept it, she can't come to terms with it. Sasuke runs his tongue over his lips and tastes a metallic taste. The darkness that had recently parted thanks to Naruto giggled vilely, enveloping the Uchiha in its icy embrace. Hopelessness The small room, dimly lit by a lamp on the wall, is soaked with loneliness and pain. The radiator does not heat, and when you touch it, you can easily freeze even more than before. The windows are blown by the wind, which is especially cruel today. In the corner of the room sits a young guy, wrapped in a blanket up to his head. Light hair is sticking out from under the fabric, the guy's face is downcast, and his eyes are closed. His breathing is calm, measured. He sleeps peacefully, but the next moment something changes abruptly, and the blonde's face is paralyzed with anxiety, and his breathing is ragged. The guy is having a nightmare, you can tell from the emotions on his face. Naruto stands in a dark hallway, unlit by the lantern he holds in his hand. Everywhere, from all sides, hoarse voices are heard, begging for help. Naruto turns his head, raises the lantern, but sees nothing but bare walls, while the voices are heard from the right, then the left, then right behind. Uzumaki feels fear gripping his insides. He moves forward simply because standing still is much more frightening than setting a goal for himself, like reaching the end of this seemingly endless corridor. He walks forward and does not hear his own steps. Suddenly there is silence. It accumulates above him and, it seems, will soon collapse with all its weight. The voices have fallen silent. He does not hear his own breathing, and in his head there is only one thought: to go forward and not stop. Suddenly, someone's voice breaks the silence. Uzumaki's brain analyzes it slowly and reluctantly, so the guy stands stupidly in place for a while. Naruto! A velvety, slightly hoarse voice that reaches the depths of consciousness, touching something inside, making the skin break out in goosebumps. Sasuke? Naruto doesn't say it out loud, but he only realizes he's silent when the whisper is repeated. It's different from what the blonde heard before. There's no plea in it, it's almost emotionless. Like a recording that's been played so many times that all the emotion the person was speaking with has simply evaporated. Naruto moves his lips, but no sound comes out. He tries to repeat the name whose owner has just called him again. But no sound comes out. Could it be that he has gone deaf? But then why isn't Sasuke's voice silenced for him? The guy shuddered and walked on, trying to light the way with the flashlight. It only snatched out of the darkness a couple of centimeters ahead and Naruto's bright orange sneakers. The silence is suddenly torn apart by a piercing scream, and all the sounds he hadn't heard crash down on the boy. Groans, wheezing, his own loud steps and breathing, the rhythm of which is saturated with fear, the beating of his heart, beating in his temples, other people's voices, clapping of hands, all of this instantly becomes too annoyingly loud, and Naruto regrets that his hearing has returned to him. The corridor ends abruptly. Naruto enters a bright room. The light hits his eyes, and he involuntarily covers them with his palm, as if they were cut with sandpaper. It takes him a long time to get used to such an environment after wandering in the darkness, and when he can finally remove his palm from his eyes and look around, he understands that it would be better to go blind. The light walls are splashed with bright red drops. Naruto tries to figure out where he is and sees two beds standing parallel to each other. The source of light is a small window with bars. He found himself in his and Sasuke's room. The ceiling is marked with crimson streaks. There is a frozen pool of blood on the floor. Naruto shudders, he exhales, and then suddenly his sense of smell turns on, and the guy feels a terrible smell of decay. He quickly covers his nose with the sleeve of his sweater, and looks at the bed, which was empty just a second ago. Black eyes stared at him. Framed by fluffy eyelashes, the look seemed hypnotic, but it didn't work on Naruto. Because the guy with black eyes' face was half rotten. The patient's wrists are cut to the flesh, and his chest is eaten away as if by acid. Naruto sees his heart beating desperately against his chest, almost touching his ribs. He feels sick. At that moment, the man speaks. Naruto. The dream ended. Naruto jumped up from the floor and looked around in shock. No, he was not in that scary room, he was at home. The voice of that man, that parody of a man. It was Sasuke's voice. He didn't tell him anything, didn't even leave a note explaining why he left. It wasn't about Sasuke, and he would obviously blame himself. And go crazy. Naruto feels fear for Uchiha. After all, he saved him from the clutches of madness, and now he himself pushed him there. With the help of Sarutobi. He has to do something. Perhaps his dream was a figment of his imagination, but Naruto rarely had dreams like that, just like that. How can he get into a psychiatric hospital that they won't let him into now? He was pulled out of his thoughts by the ringing of his mobile phone. The number was not identified. Uzumaki shrugged, accepted the call and said, "Hello?" Naruto, Sarutobi's creaky voice. "Are you very busy? What do you want?" The guy's voice immediately became icy. "Sasuke. He's having an exacerbation. Exacerbation The room is dark. Sasuke sees the light of the lamp, but it still seems dark to him. This makes Uchiha tremble and turn his face away, twitching his hands tied to the bed. It seems to him that a monster with a terrible face and bloody claws is sitting next to him. It looks at Uchiha and laughs hoarsely, stretching out its paws to him. When a wet paw touches his skin, the brunette jerks away in disgust and screams something incomprehensible, but chilling. "See?" A calm voice came from behind Naruto, causing him to step away from the viewing window built into the door of the room. The gaze of angry blue eyes met Sarutobi's indifferent gaze. "What should I see?" the blonde asked dryly, crossing his arms over his chest and looking at the man without interest. Sarutobi probably came here just to make fun of Naruto, who had just seen Sasuke jerk his face away from something, screaming at someone, and his gaze full of madness. It looked so scary. "He's having an exacerbation," Sarutobi stated the obvious calmly, almost indifferently. Naruto raised an eyebrow sarcastically. It would be surprising if he said that everything was fine and Sasuke was just playing around. "I see," Uzumaki answered coldly. "Are you going to help him, Uzumaki-san?" "I'm going to. But I have one condition," Naruto smiled wryly, realizing that it was unlikely that Sarutobi would refuse this. Otherwise, another inspection would simply rake in the entirety of their hospital for such an attitude towards a sick patient. "I'm listening." Sarutobi tensed. What was Uzumaki going to suggest? Move here again? Or maybe transfer them to a special ward? "I'm taking Sasuke to my home." The door to the room opens with a quiet creak. Sasuke abruptly turns his head away from his monster and looks at the person who entered. He glances at the neat figure, catches the light disheveled hair with his eyes and catches the gaze of clear blue eyes. Then Sasuke turns away from the blonde to the monster, despite the fact that something trembled in his heart. Someone's image stirred before his eyes, someone from the past. He returned his eyes to his monster, silently looking at its dirty paws. It laughed and touched Sasuke's cheek again, only this time the guy did not pull away, only sighed tiredly. "Sasuke," they called him. The stranger's voice sounds hoarse, velvety. This forces Uchiha to turn to the visitor. He does not remember his name, but his appearance is somehow familiar. His sick consciousness blocks his memories. He cannot understand who is in front of him. Someone with such wonderful, sky-colored eyes. Sasuke looks at him questioningly. He hadn't spoken normally for a long time. He mostly screamed or cried when he became really scared from the images that his inflamed imagination gave him. He waited for someone to tell him something, and time dragged on unrealistically slowly. His heart was beating several times slower. "Sasuke, we're going to my place. Do you mind?" the guy asks, carefully running his fingers over his pale cheek. Then he feels touches on his wrists, and the next moment the pressure of the straps on his hands is released. Almost immediately, the patient's legs are also free. Sasuke looks around and realizes that it has become lighter around him, and the monster has disappeared without a trace. He sits up on the bed, staring at the blonde in bewilderment. Some kind of light was pouring from him. Sasuke even slowly began to remember the name. And he croaked. Naruto, in a whisper, stretching out his hand, disfigured by cuts, to this fair-haired son. And Naruto smiles, takes his hand in his own, and then kisses Sasuke on the cheek. He feels that the disease is retreating, slowly giving up its positions. Behind the door, the orderlies watched in amazement as a man who did not even have a medical education calmed a man whom they had calmed down with only strong drugs. This man is amazing. And when Sasuke followed Naruto out of the ward, he glanced at the orderlies, and they didn't shudder like before. The look in his dark eyes was quite meaningful, and even happy. House equals Sasuke is put into a car. He didn't know the brand. It's black, the interior is the same, the speakers are playing quiet music, and the engine is making almost inaudible noise. He doesn't pay attention to it. Uchiha looks at the houses, trees and other objects of nature floating past him and tries to remember if he's seen it before. It doesn't work. His memory is locked with 1,000 locks, and the guy frowns. Naruto notices this through the mirror and says, "What's wrong? Does anything hurt or bother you? Should I stop the car?" Sasuke smiles, flattered by the attention. He's never, in his memory, been treated so tenderly, so that he feels like he's not indifferent. "No, I was just trying to remember if I'd ever been here." But it didn't work, the guy sighed. He was not afraid of being ridiculed, trusting Naruto completely. Sasuke knew that Uzumaki would always understand, and if necessary, he would forgive or support. And this time Naruto, having stopped at a red traffic light, turned to the brunette and ruffled his hair, saying, "I'm sure you'll remember everything." Sasuke only smiles in response to this and points his finger again at the traffic light, which is now showing green. However, they can stand here as long as they want. The road is deserted. There is not a single car here. The town was not big enough to be filled with noisy highways. That's probably why Naruto lives here. He doesn't like noise. Sasuke is not a fan either, besides, noise gives him fits. The car starts moving, and Sasuke feels himself falling asleep. He doesn't resist sleep, as he usually did in the hospital there. He was afraid to sleep because of the terribly realistic dreams. With Naruto, everything is different, because he will be able to protect him from all troubles. Sasuke is awakened by the touch of someone else's hands. He starts and opens his dark, clouded eyes, meeting the restless gaze of sky blue eyes. Did I wake you up? I wanted to take you more carefully and carry you into the house, the guy scolded himself. Sasuke shrugs casually, as if to say, no big deal, and wraps his arms around Naruto's neck, allowing him to carry him in his arms. Uzumaki carries him to his small apartment, where he has managed to clean up well. Well, I don't live very richly, I do work in art, but I hope that won't bother you, the blonde says, smiling awkwardly. I don't need luxury, I need you, Sasuke says simply. And he watches with pleasure as Naruto blushes, as he literally loses himself from his words, and quickly puts Sasuke on his feet, allowing him to look around the house. The brunette walks around the apartment slowly, like a cat that has been moved to a new place. He looks at everything, touches what seems interesting to him, even breathes deeply and sniffs. There is an atmosphere of coziness and a barely noticeable smell of oranges. It's cozy, the brunette concludes. Naruto smiles. From the outside, without knowing, you wouldn't say that Sasuke is abnormal. Naruto, you sing, don't you? Uchiha asks unexpectedly, turning to the owner of the apartment and looking straight into his eyes. Having waited for a nod and an eyebrow raised in a silent question, Sasuke continues his thought, sing to me. Naruto nods, takes his guitar from behind the couch and sits down on the chair. Sasuke sits down on the couch and makes himself comfortable, ready to listen. It seems he is afraid of missing out on the extra sound that will be given to him. Naruto takes a deep breath and quickly checks the tuning of the guitar. The sounds are clear and pleasant, so it's time to start playing. First he plays the intro, delicately touching the strings with his slender fingers, and Sasuke listens, letting the music wash over his mind. Then Naruto takes a deep breath and sings softly, sometimes a little louder. I feel there's something in the wind. That feels like tragedy's at hand. And though I'd like to stand by him, can't shake this feeling that I have. The worst is just around the bend. And does he notice my feelings for him? And will he see how much he means to me? I think it's not to be. What will become of my dear friend? Where will his actions lead us then? Although I'd like to join the crowd. In their enthusiastic cloud. Try as I may, it won't last. And will we ever end up together? And will we ever end up together? No, I think not, it's never to become. For I am not the one. As soon as Naruto finished the song and looked at his listener, he jumped up from his seat and, taking the guitar, put it on the sofa, after which he sat down on the other's lap and snuggled up to the blonde's body, hugging him around the neck. Feeling how gentle fingers touch his skin, tugging at his hair, Naruto smiles and hugs Sasuke. What difference does it make to whom the song is dedicated and what it is about? He sings it only for Sasuke. Sasuke presses himself against the warm chest, inhales the foreign scent and understands that Naruto is the one he has been searching for long and hard in his madness. That all these dreams were not in vain. And even if Shiroi does not exist, even if he is just a figment of his imagination, now he is in the past. Now he has Naruto. You know, Naruto whispered quietly, breathing into Sasuke's neck. If you want, we can leave here. I'll sell this apartment, and buy a small house. I've even looked at one already. It's very cozy and beautiful there. Quiet and far from the city. They won't disturb us. I don't care, Sasuke says. My home is where you are. He is happy. That is the main thing. Where and how is not important. Evanescence, Sally's song. A skinny guy is lying in a disgusting white room. His eyes are sunken, but they burn with an unhealthy black fire. Such a look pierces right through, it sends shivers down the back of your neck. The guy knew this, so if you displease him, his look will nail you to the wall. And if he smiles, you will have the feeling that the devil himself has honored you with his presence. The guy ruffled his black hair and looked up from the sheet of paper in front of him to wet his brush in a jar of water. Then he looked at the almost finished painting to evaluate it. The sheet depicted a dark-skinned guy, about the same age as the guy himself, that is, 18 or 19 years old. He had blue eyes, shaggy blonde hair, and a pleasant smile. And also strange stripes on his cheeks. The brunette looked around, searching for something on the wall until he found the right picture. He got up and took it off the wall, examining it carefully. The painting was dated 6 months earlier. It depicted the same guy, only there were no stripes. He had started painting these stripes recently. Uchiha Sasuke. Paranoid schizophrenic. Afraid of everything and everyone, alone in a ward after he wanted to bite his neighbor because he looked at him askance and said something wrong. As Sasuke explained later, he considered it a threat to his life. No family. Everyone was killed, the older brother disappeared without a trace. It seems that after this Sasuke went crazy. When was that? The story of his illness began 2 years earlier. The photograph shows a 16-year-old teenager, and below is a verdict, schizophrenia. When it would pass, no one knew, and would it pass at all? Sasuke discovered his artistic talent about 6 months ago. He started dreaming about a strange guy who was saying something, or at least moving his lips, but Sasuke couldn't hear. At first he was afraid, but now he even waits for night to come. He must have fallen in love with this man. Before, Sasuke didn't know what to do with the images that had crammed into his head, but then an inner voice helpfully told him to sketch. Well, he sketches. Only now he gets a face, no matter what he draws. He wants to draw a car, he does it. He draws a nurse, he does it again. And Uchiha resigned himself, methodically pasting these pictures on the walls of the ward. The doctors were amazed before. The obstinate brunette could not be found doing any task, he was so restless, and now he draws all day long. And the pictures come out like photographs. One nurse asked him for a painting. Sasuke grabbed it like a jealous husband and grumbled for probably an hour, and then took pity and gave her the painting she liked. The girl was happy, because the guy depicted in the painting was really handsome. Sasuke was drawing. The doctors got tired of giving him sheets of paper and brought a stack of 1,000 sheets of paper into the ward. He also had a huge box of paints, although there was no easel, but Sasuke liked to draw lying on the cool floor. Sasuke was drawing. He did it tirelessly, like a madman. Although he was not normal. Doctors often came here, to his ward, as to a gallery, and smiled, looking at the open smile of the blonde. Sasuke was asked who he draws. Sasuke didn't know. Sasuke didn't know his name, age, nationality, didn't know where he lived, but he felt strongly that this man was alive. He told the doctors about it, but they didn't really believe him. Sasuke didn't care. Sasuke was carried away. Uchiha had developed a habit of leafing through his medical history. He explained it by saying that he wanted it that way. He called him Shiroi to himself. He couldn't say for sure why, maybe because he appeared to him on a white background? Sasuke didn't know. Sasuke didn't know many things, for example, how to hold a brush, how to make sketches, but he did it professionally, although the brunette had never touched a brush before. Sasuke could. Sasuke knew how to surprise. Sasuke became calm, as if the pictures were being treated. The doctors laughed incredulously and said there will soon be a breakdown. That's right. But there was no breakdown. And the doctors shook their heads in disappointment and went to their offices. Becoming distant from the open-hearted patient. Sasuke wanted to live. Underscore. Shiroi, Japanese, white. Naruto Naruto had never liked mental hospitals. There was always a gloomy atmosphere there, which was more oppressive than his own illness. Uzumaki impatiently adjusted the mask the doctors had given him. Actually, why did he need a mask? The blonde didn't want to ruin his reputation. Naruto was a musician known in narrow circles, P/A. Precisely in narrow circles, that's why no one recognized him when Sasuke was drawing. After one unpleasant incident with a girl, the guy felt that his nerves were at the limit. At the next concert he, as they say, freaked out. And so much so that they couldn't calm him down for a long time and eventually called a doctor. The diagnosis was disappointing. severe depression. The doctors thought for a long time, but still decided to keep the guy under observation in the hospital. And now, having pulled a mask over his face that seemed to be made in the shape of a fox's face, he walks somewhere with an unsteady step, accompanied by doctors in white coats. "Mr. Uzumaki," one of the doctors whispers quietly. "We have assigned you to the same room with Sasuke. We will find a more convenient location for you as soon as possible. He is schizophrenic, but there is no need to be afraid, he has been calm lately. By the way, we are now at his room." Naruto nodded silently, frozen at the door. The doctors looked at each other and left, and for some reason the blonde couldn't bring himself to open the door. Finally, he took a deep breath and decisively pushed the door, entering. A handsome brunette immediately stared at him, but Naruto didn't even notice him. He simply looked around the walls in bewilderment, where his own face was looking at him. A rough voice pulled him out of his thoughts. "Who are you? What do you want here? Why are you hiding your face?" "I'm Naruto. I'll be here for temporary treatment. I'm hiding my face for the sake of secrecy. Now I'm asking questions. To be precise, I have one question. Who are you drawing?" "I don't know." The brunette shrugged. "What do you mean you don't know?" Uzumaki raised an eyebrow. Of course, he didn't expect to be known in a mental hospital, but still, how can you draw a complete stranger so accurately? "Well," Sasuke hesitated. "I just dream about him. I don't know who he is. I called him Shiroi. He's just so bright. With his arrival, I began to hope that I would stop getting sick. Maybe this is what people call love." Uchiha smiled dreamily. Although this smile transformed his pale face, it was still frightening. After all, Sasuke was not yet completely adequate. Naruto smiled nervously back and smoothed down his shoulder-length hair. For the first time, he was glad that he had forgotten about the hairdresser for so long. For some reason, he really didn't want this strange guy to know who he really was. Naruto sat down on the bed next to Sasuke's and looked thoughtfully at the ceiling. There was nothing interesting there, of course, and Uzumaki looked at the Uchiha before asking, "How come you didn't die here?" "What do you mean?" Sasuke smiled quite sincerely. "It's just so depressing here," the blonde complained. "And I draw," Sasuke said, perplexed. "And I don't feel sad at all. I wish I could do that." Naruto sighed enviously. The boys quickly became friends, despite the obvious differences in their personalities. Naruto still did not take off his mask, and Sasuke was not particularly interested in his face. Naruto often watched Sasuke draw. He managed to find out that the Uchiha never learned